Hello, it's 5 p.m. local time here in Warsaw. I'm Maciej Mikos and you're watching World News. And we begin with breaking news straight from Ukraine. This week could bring a chance to end the war in Ukraine, says Andrii Yermak, head of the office of President Zelenskyy. Yermak stressed that US President Donald Trump made a clear statement urging Russia to enter ceasefire negotiations immediately. He called Trump's move to shorten the previous 50-day window down to just 10 days last week an unmistakable signal. Yermak said that now is the time to act, as, quote, Russia's war against Ukraine poses a broader threat to the world. US President Donald Trump has announced that his envoy to the Middle East, Steve Witkoff, may travel to Moscow for talks on Wednesday or Thursday. Speaking to reporters, Trump also said that he's prepared to impose additional sanctions on Russia if it does not reach a ceasefire with Ukraine by August 8th. Russia reportedly requested the meeting ahead of the Friday deadline for a ceasefire.
Well, there'll be sanctions, but they seem to be pretty good at avoiding sanctions. You know, they're wily characters, and they're pretty good at avoiding sanctions, so we'll see what happens. But Steve is focused right now on the border in terms of, we're talking about with Gaza, getting people fed. And he may be going, I think next week, Wednesday or Thursday, may be going to Russia. They would like to see him. They've asked that he meet, so we'll see what happens.
US President Donald Trump has warned he would impose sanctions if Moscow did not agree to a ceasefire in Ukraine by Friday. Though 500% tariffs in the form of secondary sanctions are unlikely, added pressure might cause a shift between Russia and its partners, says Elena Davlikanova, democracy fellow at the Center for European Policy Analysis.
We honestly do not believe that U.S. will impose 500% tariffs on secondary sanctions on those countries that continue trading with Russia. However, any more serious impact on those countries might shift these relationships between India, China, and Russia. Well, let's wait and see, because Witkoff had to come to Moscow tonight. Unfortunately, he didn't arrive, and the whole negotiations between U.S. and Russia will probably take place, in a wider format between U.S., China, India, Russia, and Ukraine.
Hundreds of former Israeli officials have appealed to US President Donald Trump to help end the war in Gaza. In the appeal, the group stated it is the professional judgment that Hamas no longer poses a strategic threat to Israel. Around 600 retired Israeli security officials, including former heads of intelligence agencies, have issued a letter to Trump highlighting that the US president has the ability to steer Prime Minister Benjamin Netanyahu and his government in the right direction. This war ceased to be a just war, they wrote. The letter comes as Netanyahu reportedly pushes to expand military operations in Gaza after ceasefire talks with Hamas stalled. Since October 7, 2023, Israel's military campaign in Gaza has resulted in the deaths of more than 60,000 people, according to the Hamas-run health ministry. Israeli President Isaac Herzog arrived in Vilnius on Monday for talks with his Lithuanian counterpart Gitanas Nausėda. Bilateral cooperation between Lithuania and Israel, support for Ukraine and the situation in the Middle East were at the top of the agenda during the talks between the two leaders. Later in the day, both presidents will attend the Lithuania-Israel Business Forum. During his official visit, President Herzog is also set to visit the town of Shaduva, the former site of a Jewish ghetto during World War II.
Evil cannot be a means of political or military struggle. We call on Israel to ensure respect for human rights in the Gaza Strip. At the same time, we condemn violence in the West Bank and the illegal expansion of settlements. Lithuania supports the two-state solution based on the principles of international law, but this solution must ensure lasting peace and stability in the Middle East, not the opposite. For centuries, Jewish culture lived and thrived here. Unfortunately, it was cruelly destroyed over hundreds of years. Magnificent Jewish culture flourished in Lithuania, throughout Lithuania, especially in Vilnius, which was known as the Jerusalem of Lithuania, and from where many spiritual and cultural leaders emerged into the world, including rabbis, legal scholars, authors, poets, musicians, and many other very important figures who left a deep mark throughout the Jewish world and the entire world at the same time.
Lithuania's government has resigned following Prime Minister Gitanas Paluckas' decision to step down amid growing corruption allegations. The resignation, which affects the entire cabinet, follows an intense wave of scrutiny over Paluckas' business dealings.
On Monday, Paluckas announced the resignation of his government during a cabinet meeting, confirming that the 19th government on Lithuania would step down. Paluckas' resignation comes after 2 pre-trial investigations into his past and present business dealings, which prompted intense media attention and calls for accountability. Under the Lithuanian constitution, the Prime Minister's resignation automatically triggers the resignation of the entire cabinet. The Social Democratic Party, which is the largest faction in parliament, is to propose a new Prime Minister candidate. The nomination is expected to take place at a party convention called for Wednesday. Several key figures, including Jonava Mayor Mindaugas Sinkevičius, are being considered for the role. One of the candidates is also Robert Duchniewicz, the governor of the Vilnius region, who is a Lithuanian of Polish descent and one of the youngest and most dynamic representatives of the Social Democratic Party.
Denmark took on its rotating presidency of the Council of the European Union on July 1st and has since quickly prioritized the reintroduction of a controversial child sexual abuse material scanning bill. European lawmakers plan to discuss the bill on October 14th. Denmark's presidency hopes to improve law enforcement's use of digital tools against serious crimes while tackling the misuse of technology. Experts warn that new obligations could weaken encryption on messaging platforms like WhatsApp and Signal. The initial proposal for scanning private messages for child sexual abuse material faced backlash, leading the European Court of Human Rights to prohibit attempts to undermine encryption in secure communications across Europe. Russia has launched a disinformation campaign to interfere in September's parliamentary elections in Moldova. The target is the country's pro-European diaspora, and the goal is to stop voters from casting their ballot in support of Moldova's path to join the European Union.
A sharp uptick in disinformation has been observed by officials, Moldova's national security advisor Stanislav Secrieru said, as reported by Politico. Swaying the diaspora would be significant, as there is 250,000 votes at stake, and the Party of Action and Solidarity, led by President Maia Sandu, is trying to keep a majority in the Parliamentary Assembly. Tactics used by Russian disinformation include fake online outlets publishing sham reports that demobilize voters or make them support a fake pro-European party. The parliamentary elections set for September 28th may determine whether Moldova continues on its European Union path or falls under Russian influence.
And that will be all the news for now. The Bottom Line with Marie Cato is coming up next.